Hello everyone and welcome to this how to play of the game Dino Dynasty. Designed by me, Jon Manker, published by Ion Game Design and with art by Johan Egerkrans. I'm very pleased to have this game almost done now and to get you to play it soon. I'm really looking forward to it and to the Kickstarter that is coming soon. Now I'm going to tell you how to play the game in relatively brief terms, but I'm trying to touch on most of the rules. So let's get into it. Here's the game laid out. I have put the components out for just one player. It's only to show how it's done. We have all the contents of the game here. We have the player board. On the player board you will find frames which tells you how the different actions are modified. You have these sliders to control these frames, and there's also your meeples, dino meeples and eggs. You have challenge cards and end condition cards which have a brief text on them telling how you win the game, and when the game at the end of the game there is a chance that it will go on for an uncertain amount of time, usually pretty short, but you never know, so that's steering this. You have the player board is here, and there's more player boards, and there's a lot of them, and I think this is excellent. There's so beautiful images, and they have a lot of very good dinosaurs in my opinion. 24 in total, if I remember correctly, in this. Up here is the player aid. Here are some tokens that will help counting stuff for the challenges. There are morphs, as you can see on these ones. Some have morphs pre-printed on them, but there are room for 3 morphs on each, and then if you grab them you will place them on top of there. You have some dice that are used for events and for fighting. And then you have the map, which is constructed while you play using these biome tiles. Oh no, sorry, these territory tiles. On the map, the territory tiles will form biomes. So there is one biome, here is one biome, and so forth. Then you have the box, and finally the scenario cards, which is how you set up the game. And there's also a lot of scenario cards that comes with the game, so and they are in different size, so you will be able to play many different kinds of setups and even play them as a campaign, which I will mention soon. So looking at this game as it's standing now, the setup would be that you first select your player board and place the tokens here, take the meeples. You will then draw a challenge to see how you win the game. And here are some challenges. You draw 1 per player and 1 extra. And this one, for example, says the most added tokens as morphs. And the next I draw here was the least dinos outside the territory, which means if you have as few as possible in your personal storage, and so forth. So you draw a few of those. You also draw 1 for tiebreaker, so if some of these are tied, you count this one that you draw in addition, and you draw an end condition card, which is kept secret until the map is filled, and then you reveal it, and then you see how soon the game will end. Then you set up the board, so you decide on 1 scenario card. Here is a scenario card which says B, which is the second smallest map. There are up to E, and you have A, B, C, D, E in different sizes. This map here is set up for the E, so you have starting positions, and you might have some starting biomes, which would be this one and this one. And then this would be my starting position. Then I put a few other tiles here only to be able to show you a few concepts of the game. So if this was set up from the very start, those over here wouldn't be here. They would come later on in the game. And then you have the morph tokens. You shuffle them into a bag that will come with the game. And you also, there are borders here which are telling you how big the map will be when you play. So, how do you play this game? Well, you have each turn, each player takes a number of actions or does one action selected from a number of actions. And at the start and the end of the turn there are a few upkeep things. This continues until the map is full. Then you reveal the end condition, which is this one. The last round starts when 2 or more dinos are removed during a combat on a biome adjacent to water. So as soon as someone kills 2 or more dinos on somewhere which has connection to water, then that would be the final round and everybody has one more action. If this was the one we played with this time. So fill the map, read this. When that's completed, one more turn. So during each turn, the player does first, if they have planted eggs earlier, these eggs now hatch and become a new dino. Then you choose between migrate, which means you move your dinos to another place. If you want, you can draw a tile and place it, and then you move the dinos. If you draw a tile and place it, you have to do the movement onto that tile, onto a biome on that tile. But you could also choose not to draw a tile and move anywhere, and you can choose to place a tile and not move. The placement rules are that at least one place of the tile needs to match something on the board. So this one, for example, has something there that match over here. Note that water is a bit special. So water is matching everything when you place it, but only water when it's locked on the map. So you can't, for example, take this one and place it here, because the water that is matching everything only does so when it's on the map, the tile you're holding. So this one could, for example, be placed here instead. Whereas this one that has water on it can be placed virtually anywhere. Let's say I put it there. Then I would not be able to move because I can't move to that tile, but that's okay. That's migrate. And then you have spread, which means you add a dino or you add eggs. Eggs are added to a biome next to you. And note here, biomes, as I said, are the areas on the map, not the tiles. The tiles are just what you place. So these guys here are actually standing on a very large biome. This whole orange thing here is one space, so to speak. So if I were to place an egg, I could place this egg one step away everywhere here. It could be all the way over here. At the end, these are the ones that hatch at the beginning of your next turn, if they survive, if no one has been there stomping on them. So one of those two, or sometimes both, depending on your strength. I will mention this soon. Then you have compete, which means you move into another space and try to compete against the dinos over there. The strength is your strength in the compete value, plus the number of dinos you have, plus a roll of 2 special dice. In this case, 2. So this big behemoth, the Patagotitan, has 13 in strength, which I think is the biggest in the game, or maybe one has 14. Plus 2, which is 17 in this case. It's very big. So you don't want to mess with this guy. But there are many other things to win the game. In this case, we draw a few that didn't have much to do with winning by competing. So you are not always trying to be strong or big. Then we have the final one, which is evolve, and that means you move one of these evolve markers, and then we get to this strength. So each of the actions I just mentioned has a representation on this board. We have spread, we have migrate, we have compete, and we have evolve. And they are modified by the value this frame is in, and the frame's location is where depending on those sliders that you move with said evolve action, the fourth action. So let's say I evolve and move this one down. That means those two also move down one step. And this means I will now produce one dino if I do the spread action, and 2 eggs instead of 1. So if I were to spread with eggs, I have to choose one of those. Then I could place eggs, well, say here, for example. And then I place 2 eggs, because I got better on that. But at the same time, I got worse on something else, spread in this case. So usually this movement makes you better in something and at the same time worse in something else. So now I can only move using two dinos. So whenever I want to move, if it looks like this, I cannot move all of them. I have to move only 2. My herd size is only 2. So that's how those are modified. This one you get more eggs, and even you can get, if you get down to here, for example, or there, this one were moved there and that one was standing there, which means that this would be here and this would be here. Then you have each time you do spread, you place 1 dino and 2 eggs. You don't have to choose. But on the same time, your herd size is now small, only 1 dino every time you move. And your strength has gone down a bit to 11. All right, so that's evolve. Then sometimes there are event biomes. I will tell you more about them later. But if these are on the map, they get morph tokens on them to simulate that this extreme condition makes you morph into some new feature. And if there are more morph tokens where you are, at the end of the turn you may take one of them for free. That's a free action at the end of the turn. And finally, if you are at the end of the turn and there is someone else in the same biome as you, you lose 1 dino from that biome, from attriation, because you're not competing, but you're coexisting, and that's eating on your herd, so to speak. So that's the basic actions, the basic what's going on. And using these 4 actions, your goal is to try and get one of those challenges at the end of the game. So when the end comes and it's time to check, you check each of them, added morph tokens, who has the most, you get that one. Least dinos outside, well, maybe someone else. And then, let's say we were 2 players, the third one would be the biggest biome counted by territory tiles. Whoa, that's probably me because I have that big one. And then I would win by 2-1. Let's say there was another big biome, and this one actually applied to both players, and we had an equal big size of biome. Then we look at the tiebreaker challenge. In this case, hatch. Take 1 token each time you hatch eggs. Aha! And then we see the use of these tokens, because some of these actions or some of these challenges need tokens to count. So each time someone hatched an egg, they would get one of the hatch egg tokens, and then you just count who has the most tokens, and that one gets the wins the tiebreaker, and then you also win the game if it's a tie. If the tiebreaker challenge is also tied, then you share the victory. So that's about how you play and how you win. There are I would like to mention a few details on tactics. So keep the challenges in mind. It's easy to just go about and stomp people and try to compete. But if there is no reason for that in the challenges, you will waste turns. And do not miss this, how far the biomes actually stretch. Because if someone has placed their dinos down there, it might be not easy to see that they can actually move to here or even to here, because the biome is so big. Another thing is that it's good to know when the disadvantage is outshined by the advantage when you evolve. So sometimes it doesn't matter that you get a bit worse. So Patago Titan here, for example, probably don't care if he is plus 13 or plus 11 in strength, depending on which other dinos are in the game. But it's probably more important to be able to lay more eggs, so to speak. So he can, or it can disregard or it's not as bad to get worse than that. So that's a good thing to have in mind. And also I would say, as in one of my favorite games, Go, which is a Asian game about playing black and white stones. As I feel when I play it, one important thing in Go is to know when to leave an area and start somewhere else, so you gain tempo in the new place. There are actually elements of that in the strategy here. You need to know when to go to somewhere else on the map, and so to speak, if you want to be really good at this game. So there are some special components and details. I would like to say something about the board more. We have this grid, which is the action modifications actually. But down here you also have important information telling you about the morphs. So these morphs, which are different specialities, this one for example, display feathers, which means you have feathers but you can't fly, you just show them for display, plus 1 egg when making a nest. So if you have this, you always get an extra egg. But as seen on it, it's only for size 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this big fellow here can't have display feathers. It's also only for 2 types of the 3 larger types of dinosaurs that are in the game. And in this case we see that the type here is also wrong. These dinos never had feathers obviously. And the limitations here of size and down there and the type over here are all based on real facts. So some of these morphs are not fitting, and that's to avoid freak results, because as always we have made a lot of work in interpreting reality into making a game when we do games here at Ion. So that's one detail. Down here you also see your starting herd size and how many dinos and eggs you have in this game. And if we look at other ones, they have different herd size, they have different size, many eggs to spend. And on the back side of them, there is another one. So each family has 4 different dinos. There are 2 of these for each family. Another thing is the player aid, where you can see everything that's going on in the game. You have the actions explained in brief. You have the sequence of play, and you have the different biomes. You have the general biomes we saw here, like forest, rainforest and such, which they are all equal, except for that you might be specialized to evolve in one or the other, or camouflage using morphs, but they are in of themselves no difference. It's just depending on your features. But then you have the events, and now I come to that part. There are 2 kinds of events. One-time events, which are big things that happens and then just becomes a normal biome. The most iconic one is of course the crater. There might be a big crater, which is a meteorite coming down here, exploding. You place it on top of the places. Now this one will become, something happens. Every dino in the 1 tile away are killed. So these 2 die. If you're able to flee, which these ones are not in this case, they can't go, this biome don't continue outwards. But if they were able to flee, they could survive. But if they're not, they die. When this has happened, you roll a die to see if you place any morphs on there, and then these morphs can be grabbed. This is now a biome like any else, and it's also actually destroyed this big biome a bit, so you can't now walk all the way, it stops here. This is but this one is isolated. When the event occurs, you place it, you carry out the effect, you place morphs there, and you also do something called aftermath, which is a random event can happen, and you roll a die for that as well. It could be that a new challenge card is introduced to the game, or that you actually get to remove previously placed event tiles. So if there's a desert here, you can remove it, and this goes back to the state it was before. So the event will have ripple effects, could have ripple effects that affects other parts of the board. Yes, we have the scenario cards. I think I told you about them, but I could also mention that there is this thing in this game. You can play as teams, where you play several people, and then you won't compete when you are on the same biome, and you will count the points together, so to speak. But you can also play a campaign mode, and there are five different, as I said, the size. So it starts with size A, and then when you're done with that, you would place just the additional space on the map, depending on a drawn B card. And then when that is done, you place a C card, and D and E. In that case, the map will grow, and you will play several games in a row, and you will draw a new challenge card each time, and you will gain points depending on how many you have behind you on each of these scenarios. And then at the end, it's those campaign points that will tell you the winner. And that can be played both as a player versus player and in the team game. Finally, you can evolve, or there is an evolution. So as I said, there are 4 of each family. And if you manage to place these ones so the number here match another part of your family. Let's see if we have the Titanosaurus here. So for example, if I want to become a dreadnought, then I have 11 up here and 11 there. So if I manage to put that at 11, this one as 1 plus 2, yeah, that works. This size 1, I need to move this because there is no herd size 1 here, only herd size 2. So I have to move this here by doing an evolve, that's strategy in the game. And then there is usually no problem with the evolve action because the different families have more or less the same areas they're good at. So if I manage to get this setup here, there are places on this one that match. And then I can, between campaign games, transform into another dinosaur and evolve into a dreadnought. And this might be because I know a bit about the map now, I want to become another, I know what the others have. So there's long-term strategy in doing such evolution for your family. All right, that was the Dino Dynasty in brief. I hope you got the gist of the game, and I really hope you got interested, because I am really enthusiastic into bringing this to Kickstarter soon, and then bringing it to all of you when you if you find it interesting on Kickstarter, and when it soon enough will hit the stores. If you want to try it right now, you can always find it on Tabletop Simulator, where there is a mod for it. The rules will be available in the mod, I think. When the Kickstarter page is on, there will be rules there, of course. And then you can join our Discord server to see to meet other people talking about it. The official Discord server links will be in the description. You can always also find more information on our webpage, also linked. And you have watched this far, so I think if you haven't liked and subscribed, you probably should do that right now. All right, thank you again for looking through this entire How to Play video. I really hope you find the game and the beautiful art by Johan Egerkrans appealing, and that I will maybe sometime be able to play Dino Dynasty with you. Bye-bye.